Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in the center of the Great Hall on Nexus Prime Station. The alien representatives sat in their respective sections around the circular chamber. The air felt heavy with tension as he waited for the final decision. That would change everything for humanity. The Zephyrian delegate rose first. Its crystalline body caught the light from the chamber's energy panels and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding the human expansion into contested sectors. Jake kept his face neutral but his hands clenched behind his back. He had spent 3 years on this station trying to negotiate fair terms for human exploration rights. 3 years of careful diplomacy and patient explanations about human needs and capabilities. Now it seemed like all that work was about to crumble. The Morphean representative slithered forward on its dozen tentacles. Its translator device crackled to life with mechanical precision. Humanity has shown aggressive expansion patterns that threaten established territorial boundaries. Your species moves too quickly and claims too much. Jake wanted to laugh at the irony. Humans moved too quickly for species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years before humanity even discovered fire. The Zephyrians had taken 500 years to colonize their first 3 systems. The Morpheans moved so slowly that their exploration ships took decades to reach nearby stars. The Hive Queen's people expanded only when their population demanded it, which happened maybe once every few centuries. The insectoid representative clicked its mandibles together in what Jake had learned was their version of clearing their throat. The Human Federation will cease all expansion activities beyond the boundaries established in the Nexus Accords. All human presence in contested zones must be withdrawn within 6 standard months. Jake felt his stomach drop. The contested zones included some of humanity's most important research stations and mining operations. Research Station Alpha 7 alone held 20 years of xenoarchaeological discoveries. The mining operations in the Kepler Belt provided rare elements that Earth desperately needed for advanced technology. With respect, honored delegates, Jake began, using the formal address required by Council protocol, humanity has invested significant resources in these regions. Our research has benefited all species in the Council. Perhaps we could discuss a gradual transition or shared custody arrangements. The Zephyrian's crystal structure flashed with what Jake recognized as annoyance. The decision is final. Human expansion threatens the stability of established civilizations. Your species lacks the wisdom to manage such rapid growth responsibly. Jake bit back his first response. He wanted to point out that human exploration had discovered 3 new habitable worlds in the last year alone. Human mining operations had increased the availability of rare minerals by 400%. Human research teams had made breakthrough discoveries in everything from faster than light communication to medical treatments that worked across species lines. Instead, he tried one more diplomatic approach. The research at Alpha 7 is crucial to understanding the ancient civilizations that once inhabited this sector. Dr. Adams and her team are on the verge of major discoveries that could benefit everyone. The Morphean delegate's tentacles writhed, and what Jake knew was dismissive gesture. Human researchers work too quickly and draw conclusions without proper deliberation. The Morphean Archaeological Institute has expressed concerns about human methodology for years. Jake almost laughed. The Morphean Archaeological Institute had been studying a single ruined city for 3 centuries and had published exactly 4 research papers. Dr. Adams had mapped and analyzed 17 different archaeological sites in the same time period and had published over 200 papers that had advanced the field. Significantly, the Hive Queen's representative stepped forward. Its compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like tiny mirrors. The collective has observed human behavior patterns. Humans establish permanent settlements too, quickly, and modify planetary environments without consideration for existing ecosystems. This accusation stung because it was partially true. Humans did modify environments quickly, but they also had the best terraforming success rate in the galaxy. Human-modified worlds supported more diverse populations and had fewer environmental problems than worlds developed by other species. The Hive Queen's people had abandoned 6 worlds. After their terraforming efforts failed completely, Jake realized that no amount of logical argument would change their minds. The alien species had made their decision based on fear, not facts. They feared human adaptability and innovation. They feared being left behind by a species that had achieved in decades what had taken them millennia. "If this is the Council's final decision," Jake said formally, "then humanity will comply with the withdrawal order." The Zephyrian seemed surprised by his quick acceptance. Its crystal body flickered with uncertain patterns. "The Council appreciates human cooperation in this matter," Jake nodded stiffly and turned to leave. As he walked toward the exit, he heard the delegates beginning to discuss the redistribution of human territories among themselves. The Chlorothian Empire had already submitted claims for 3 human mining systems. The void stalker detection networks that humans had built would be shut down to save costs. The trade routes that human cargo ships had established would be operated by alien vessels at much lower efficiency. Back in his quarters, Jake activated the secure communication link to Earth. President Carter's face appeared on the screen, looking tired and worried. "How bad is it, Jake?" "Complete withdrawal from all contested zones within 6 months," Jake reported. "No negotiations, no compromises, no exceptions." Carter closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. "We knew this might happen. The other species have been coordinating against us for months. What are our options?" "We comply," Carter said simply. "General Miller wanted to fight, but we're outnumbered 50-1. Secretary Brooks thinks we might be able to negotiate individual agreements with some species. But frankly, I don't think they'll risk defying the Council." Jake felt the weight of failure settling on his shoulders. "Sir, they don't understand what they're asking us to give up. The research stations, the mining operations, the early warning systems we've built. Without human presence in those sectors, the entire regional stability will collapse." Carter's expression hardened. "Then maybe it's time they learned what the galaxy looks like without human contributions. Send the withdrawal orders to all our facilities. Complete evacuation, no exceptions, no delays." "What about the research data? The mining equipment? The defense networks?" "Leave it all," Carter said. "We'll follow their orders exactly." Complete withdrawal means complete withdrawal. After ending the call, Jake sat in his quarters and looked out at the stars. Humanity had built something beautiful out there among the distant suns. Research stations that pushed the boundaries of knowledge. Mining operations that supplied materials for technological advancement. Defense networks that protected everyone from ancient threats. Trade routes that connected civilizations and fostered understanding. Now it would all be abandoned because other species feared human success. They wanted humanity to slow down, to think smaller, to be less than what they were capable of being. Jake began composing the withdrawal orders that would bring humanity's greatest expansion to an end. But as he wrote, he wondered if the aliens had considered what would happen when humans were no longer there to hold everything together. The galaxy was about to find out what silence really meant. Commander Ryan Foster stood on the observation deck of Research Station Alpha 7 and watched the last transport ship dock with the station. The vessel looked small against the backdrop of the ancient alien ruins that had made this place so valuable to humanity. After 3 years of careful excavation and study, they were abandoning everything. Dr. Claire Adams rushed into the control room carrying a sealed container. Her face showed the strain of the past 2 weeks as she had worked frantically to preserve as much research data as possible. "Ryan, we can't leave the quantum resonance chamber. It took us 18 months to build and calibrate. The discoveries we could make with just 6 more months of study would revolutionize our understanding of the precursor civilization." Ryan felt the same frustration that had been eating at him since the withdrawal orders arrived. Alpha 7 represented the most advanced xenoarchaeological facility in human space. The ruins below contained technology that was millions of years old and far beyond current understanding. Human researchers had made more progress in 3 years than the previous alien expeditions had made in 3 centuries. "The orders are clear, Claire," Ryan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Complete evacuation by the deadline." No exceptions. No delays. Claire set the container down hard on the table. They don't understand what they're throwing away. The precursors had mastery over space-time manipulation. The fragments we've decoded suggest they could travel instantly between galaxies. This research could benefit every species in the Council. Ryan knew she was right. The precursor ruins had yielded discoveries that had already advanced human technology by decades. The quantum resonance chamber alone had led to breakthroughs in faster-than-light communication and energy generation. But the Galactic Council had decided that human research moved too quickly and drew conclusions without proper deliberation. The irony was bitter. The Morphean Archaeological Institute had been studying similar ruins for over 200 years and had published exactly 4 research papers. Their methodology involved decades of careful observation before making even tentative conclusions. Meanwhile, human researchers combined advanced scanning technology with innovative analysis techniques to unlock secrets that had remained hidden for millennia. "Load everything you can carry," Ryan ordered. "All research data, all equipment that can be moved, all samples that won't degrade during transport." Claire nodded reluctantly and began organizing her team. Dr. Pete Collins supervised the dismantling of the quantum resonance chamber while Dr. Amy Turner worked to preserve biological samples from the ruins. The efficiency of human operations was evident as systems that had taken months to install were carefully removed and packed within hours. Across the galaxy, Admiral Kate Sherman coordinated the withdrawal of the entire human deep space fleet. From her flagship, the UES Horizon, she watched as dozens of vessels began their journey back to human space. Each ship represented years of exploration and discovery. Each departure meant abandoning star systems that humans had mapped, studied, and protected. The mining operations posed their own challenges. Tony Martinez had spent 5 years establishing automated extraction systems in the Kepler belt. The asteroids contained rare elements that were essential for advanced technology. The mining platforms operated with precision that alien species had never achieved, extracting maximum yield while minimizing environmental impact. "Shutting down Platform 7, Tony reported over the communication link. "All automated systems are being powered down as ordered." The platforms had been marvels of human engineering. They could operate for years without maintenance while processing millions of tons of raw material. The rare elements they extracted were traded throughout the galaxy, supporting technological advancement for dozens of species. Now those same species would have to find alternative sources or do without. Tony watched the platform's lights dim as the automated systems shut down one by one. The Korathian Empire had already submitted claims for this system, but they lacked the technology to operate the platforms efficiently. Their extraction methods were crude and wasteful, typically destroying more material than they recovered. The most difficult evacuations were the civilian colonies. Mayor John Phillips of New Montana faced the task of convincing 50,000 people to abandon their homes. The colony had been established only 4 years earlier, but it had already become a thriving community with farms, schools, and small industries. "I know this is hard," Phillips addressed the crowd gathered in the main square. "We've all worked to build something good here. But we have our orders from Earth. We're going home." Bill Johnson stood in the crowd with his wife Mary and their 2 children. They had spent 3 years turning barren ground into productive farmland. The crops they grew fed not only the human colony but also several alien trading posts in nearby systems. Their agricultural techniques had increased crop yields by 300% compared to traditional alien methods. "What about the harvest?" Mary asked. "The grain won't be ready for another month. We leave it," Phillips said simply. All of it. The Johnson family loaded their belongings onto the transport ships along with thousands of other colonists. Children who had never known any home but New Montana looked back at the only world they remembered. Adults who had invested their life savings in colonial ventures watched their dreams disappear into the void. The precision of the human withdrawal surprised even the aliens who were monitoring the process. No equipment was sabotaged, no facilities were damaged, no scorched earth tactics were employed. Humans simply gathered their people and left. taking only what they could carry and leaving everything else exactly as they found it. Crystalline Prime 7 led a Zephyrian inspection team through the abandoned facilities on Alpha 7. The aliens found the station completely intact but secured. All databases had been wiped clean, all equipment had been shut down properly, and all hazardous materials had been safely contained. The humans were quite thorough, the Zephyrian observed. They followed the withdrawal orders precisely. The Morphian delegate examined the quantum resonance chamber with its tentacles. This technology is beyond our current understanding. It will take considerable time to determine its purpose. What the aliens didn't realize was that the abandoned facilities represented only the visible portion of human achievements. The real value had never been in the buildings or equipment. It had been in the knowledge, experience, and innovative thinking that humans brought to every challenge. Those assets were leaving with the evacuating personnel. Dr. Elena Cruz monitored the withdrawal from Earth's Global Command Center. Her job was to ensure that all human assets were accounted for and that the evacuation proceeded smoothly. The scale of the operation was staggering. Over 2 million humans were being relocated from various facilities across the contested zones. All research stations have been evacuated, she reported to Director Sam Brooks. Mining operations are shutting down on schedule. Colony ships are departing from 17 different worlds, Brooks nodded grimly. What about the early warning systems? Shut down and abandoned as ordered, Elena replied. The Void Stalker Detection Network, the gravitational anomaly monitors, the quantum flux scanners. All of it, those systems had been humanity's gift to galactic security. Human scientists had detected and tracked ancient threats that other species couldn't even perceive. The early warning networks had prevented countless disasters and saved millions of lives across multiple species. Now they were being abandoned, because the Galactic Council feared human expansion more than they valued human protection. The aliens would soon discover what the galaxy looked like without human vigilance watching over the dark spaces between the stars. As the last human ships departed from the contested zones, they left behind a silence that would soon become deafening. The galaxy was about to learn that some kinds of quiet were more dangerous than any noise. 6 months had passed since the last human ship departed from the contested zones. The Galactic Council representatives had congratulated themselves on successfully containing human expansion. The Zephyrians had claimed 3 former human research stations. The Morphians had taken control of 2 mining operations, and the Hive Queen's forces had established monitoring posts in the outer systems. Everything seemed to be proceeding according to plan until the first distress signal arrived. Dr. Elena Cruz sat in the monitoring station, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth. The facility had been built in secret during the final months before the withdrawal. Banks of sophisticated equipment tracked communications across the galaxy through hidden relay stations that the aliens had never discovered. President Carter had authorized the project under the code name Sanctuary, reasoning that humanity needed to know what happened after they left. The first signal came from a Morphian colony in the Tau Ceti system. Elena's translation software processed the alien language and displayed the message on her screen. The words made her blood run cold. Emergency assistance required. Corathian battle fleet approaching. Colony defenses insufficient. Request immediate. Military support. Elena checked her star charts. The Tau Ceti system had been protected by Human Defense Station Phoenix until the withdrawal. The station had maintained a small but effective patrol fleet that kept aggressive species away from the peaceful Morphian settlements. With the humans gone, the Corathians had apparently decided to test the new power balance. She activated the secure communication link to Director Sam Brooks. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the Tau Ceti system. The Corathians are moving against Morphian colonies. Brooks appeared on the screen, his face grim. How many ships? At least 40 vessels, according to the distress signal. The Morphians have maybe 6 outdated defense platforms, the numbers told the story. During the human presence, the Corathians had maintained a respectful distance from settled systems. Human patrol fleets were small but highly effective. using advanced tactics and superior coordination to deter much larger forces. The Korathians had tested human resolve only once, losing 12 ships in a brief engagement that demonstrated human military capabilities. Now, with the humans gone, the Korathians were free to pursue their expansionist agenda without fear of human intervention. "What's the Galactic Council's response?" Brooks asked. Elena checked her communication logs. "The Morphians sent a formal request for assistance 2 hours ago. So far, no reply from the Zephyrians or the Hive Queen's representatives. This was the first major test of the post-human security arrangement. The Galactic Council had assumed that individual species could handle their own defense needs. They had not considered that many of their member species had become dependent on human protection over the years. The Zephyrians possessed advanced technology, but their crystalline nature made them slow to respond to rapid military threats. Their decision-making process involved complex harmonic consultations that could take days to reach conclusions. The Hive Queen's forces were powerful but lacked strategic flexibility, preferring to defend their own territories rather than assist. Others. 20-4 hours later, Elena received updated intelligence from the Tau Ceti system. The Korathian fleet had overwhelmed the Morphian defenses and occupied 3 colony worlds. Thousands of Morphian civilians had been displaced, and their industrial facilities had been seized. "The Korathians are consolidating their position," Elena reported. "They're bringing in construction ships and establishing permanent military bases." Brooks studied the tactical display. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" The Zephyrians finally responded. "They're sending a diplomatic mission to negotiate with the Korathians." Brooks laughed bitterly. "Negotiations? The Korathians just conquered 3 worlds and the Zephyrians want to talk about it. The crisis in Tau Ceti was only the beginning." Without human patrol fleets maintaining the balance of power, aggressive species throughout the galaxy began testing their neighbors' defenses. The Korathians launched additional campaigns against isolated colonies. The Ravager clans emerged from their traditional territories and began raiding shipping lanes. Even previously peaceful species began expanding their boundaries at the expense of weaker neighbors. The economic consequences were equally severe. Human cargo ships had been the backbone of interstellar trade for decades. Human captains knew the safest routes, the most efficient schedules, and the best trading opportunities. Human logistics specialists had optimized supply chains that connected dozens of star systems. Now those supply chains were collapsing. Alien cargo ships were slower, less efficient, and more expensive to operate. Trade routes that had taken humans weeks to complete now required months of travel time. The cost of shipping goods between star systems increased by 400%. Almost overnight, Commander Kevin Wright watched the decline from his position as administrator of Nexus Prime Trading Station. He had been allowed to remain due to his marriage to a Zephyrian diplomat, making him one of the few humans still working in alien space. What he saw horrified him. "The docking bays are half empty," he reported to his wife during their evening meal. "The Morphian trade delegation left this morning. They can't afford the shipping costs for their agricultural exports." His wife's crystalline form flickered with concern. "The Zephyrian High Council is discussing emergency trade subsidies, but the harmonic consensus will take time to achieve." Wright had seen this problem developing for weeks. The Morphians produced food that was essential for several species, but without efficient human transport, the cost of shipping had become prohibitive. Other species were facing similar problems with raw materials, manufactured goods, and specialized equipment. The trading station that had once bustled with activity from dozens of species was becoming a ghost town. Alien merchants who had built their businesses around human logistics found themselves unable to compete in the new economic reality. Meanwhile, environmental disasters were beginning to cascade across multiple worlds. Human terraforming teams had been maintaining atmospheric processors and ecosystem balances on 17 different planets. The work required constant monitoring and adjustment to prevent catastrophic failures. Dr. Amy Turner, had been one of the specialists maintaining the ecological balance on Kepler 442b, a world that supported colonies from 4 different species. The planet's atmosphere required regular treatment to prevent toxic buildup, and the introduced ecosystems needed careful management to remain stable from her new position on Earth. Amy monitored the situation through hidden sensors that her team had left behind. The readings were becoming increasingly alarming. The atmospheric processors on Kepler 442b are operating beyond safe parameters, she reported to her supervisor. Without proper maintenance, the system will fail within 6 months. The planet supported over 2 million alien colonists. If the atmospheric processors failed, the world would become uninhabitable within weeks. The aliens had the technical manuals that human teams had left behind, but they lacked the experience and expertise to perform the complex maintenance procedures. Similar problems were developing on other worlds. The Hive Queen's home planet was experiencing agricultural failures as their understanding of cross-species ecosystem management proved inadequate. Zephyrian crystal gardens were dying due to improper atmospheric balance. Morphian aquaculture systems were collapsing as water chemistry shifted beyond acceptable ranges. The aliens had assumed that human technological contributions were easily replaceable. They had not considered that the real value lay in human knowledge, experience, and problem-solving abilities. Machines could be copied, but the wisdom to use them effectively could not be transferred through technical manuals. President Carter reviewed the intelligence reports in his office in Washington. The scale of the galactic crisis was becoming clear. Military conflicts were spreading, trade networks were collapsing, and environmental disasters were threatening entire civilizations. The aliens had forced humanity to withdraw, but they had not considered the consequences of removing the species that had been holding their civilization together. How long before they ask for our help? Carter asked his advisors. General Miller consulted his intelligence reports. The Morphians are already sending unofficial communications through intermediaries. The Zephyrians are too proud to admit they need assistance, but their harmonic councils are becoming increasingly discordant. The Hive Queen's representatives haven't made contact, but their agricultural problems are getting worse. Secretary Brooks leaned forward. What's our response when they do ask? Carter looked out the window at the lights of the capital city. Humanity had spent decades building relationships with alien species, sharing knowledge and maintaining galactic stability. They had been rewarded with suspicion, restrictions, and ultimately expulsion from the very systems they had helped to protect. We wait, Carter said simply. We watch, we listen, and we wait for them to understand what they've lost. The galaxy was learning that silence could be more powerful than any weapon. The absence of human voices in the cosmic conversation was creating echoes that would soon become impossible to ignore. The first sign of the ancient threat came from the deep monitoring stations that humans had abandoned in the Outer Rim territories. Dr. Elena Cruz was reviewing routine intelligence reports when an automated alert flashed across her screen. The message was brief but terrifying. Quantum signature detected. Classification: Void Stalker. Threat level: extreme. Elena's hands trembled as she accessed the historical database. The Void Stalkers were mechanical beings from a dead civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. Most species considered them extinct, but human deep space explorers had discovered evidence that some units remained dormant in the darkness between galaxies. Captain Greg Stone had been the first to encounter them during a routine exploration. Mission 5 years earlier, the human response had been swift and thorough. Early warning stations were established throughout the Outer Rim, equipped with quantum sensors that could detect Void Stalker signatures across vast distances. The stations were staffed by teams of specialists who understood the threat and knew how to respond. When dormant units were discovered, human military forces would either destroy them or establish containment protocols to prevent activation. Now those stations were abandoned and silent. The automated systems had continued operating for months after the human withdrawal, but without maintenance and proper monitoring, they had gradually failed. The Void Stalkers had awakened undetected and were already moving toward inhabited Systems. Elena activated the emergency communication link to Director Brooks. Sir, we have a code black situation. Void stalkers are active in Sector 7. Multiple signatures detected. Brooks' face went pale. How many units? At least 12 confirmed, possibly more. They're moving toward the Morphean research colonies. In the Vega system contained 3 Morphean research stations and a small civilian population. The colonies were lightly defended, with only basic security forces designed to handle civilian emergencies. They had no military capability to resist a Void Stalker attack. What's the estimated time to contact? Brooks asked. Elena checked her calculations. 18 hours at current speed. Brooks closed his eyes. Send a priority alert to the Galactic Council. They need to know what's coming. The alert was transmitted through official diplomatic channels, but the response was painfully slow. The Zephyrians required time to analyze the threat and achieve harmonic consensus on a response. The Hive Queen's representatives needed to consult with their collective consciousness. The Morpheans were too panicked to organize an effective defense. Meanwhile, the Void Stalkers continued their relentless advance toward the inhabited systems. The first attack came without warning. The Morphean research station on Vega Prime simply stopped transmitting. One moment, Elena was receiving routine status reports. The next, there was only silence. Automated distress beacons activated briefly before being cut off, leaving only the terrifying knowledge that something had gone horribly wrong. Vega Prime is gone, Elena reported grimly. No survivors detected. The Void Stalkers had evolved over millions of years to be perfect destroyers. They adapted to any defense, learned from every encounter, and showed no mercy or emotion. During the previous encounter, Captain Stone had described them as mechanical nightmares that turned entire worlds into scrap metal. The second research station fell 12 hours later. This time, the station's automated systems managed to transmit brief visual data before being destroyed. Elena watched in horror as mechanical creatures the size of buildings tore through the facility's defenses like paper. The Void Stalkers moved with terrifying efficiency, dismantling everything they encountered and incorporating useful materials into their own structures. The Galactic Council finally responded with a formal military request. The message was transmitted to every major species in the galaxy, but the response was disappointing. The Zephyrians offered to send a diplomatic mission to negotiate with the Void Stalkers. The Hive Queen's forces were too far away to provide immediate assistance. The Carathians were busy with their own expansion campaigns and declined to get involved. Only the Morpheans themselves attempted a military response. They dispatched their entire defense fleet to the Vega system, hoping to stop the Void Stalkers before they could reach the civilian colonies. Elena monitored the battle through long-range sensors, watching as 12 Morphean warships engaged the ancient mechanical threat. The battle lasted exactly 47 minutes. The Morphean ships were destroyed one by one as the Void Stalkers adapted to their weapons and tactics. The mechanical creatures absorbed the energy from the alien weapons and used it to strengthen their own defenses. They learned from each attack and developed countermeasures in real time. The Morphean fleet is completely destroyed, Elena reported. The Void Stalkers are continuing toward the civilian colonies. Brooks slammed his fist on the desk. Where the hell is the Galactic Council? They forced us out of these systems. Now they need to defend them. The answer came in the form of a desperate communication from the Galactic Council chambers. The aliens were requesting immediate assistance from any available military force. For the first time in over a year, they were specifically asking for human help. They're begging us to intervene, Elena said, reading the translated message. The Morphean delegate is offering to negotiate new territorial agreements if we'll help stop the Void Stalkers. President Carter was awakened in the middle of the night to review the situation. He sat in the White House Situation Room surrounded by his top advisors, weighing the implications of the alien request. The Void Stalkers represented a threat to all galactic civilization, but the aliens had made their position clear when they forced humanity to withdraw. What's our official response? Carter asked. General Miller consulted his intelligence reports. The Void Stalkers will reach the main Morphean colonies within 6 hours. After that, they'll likely move toward other inhabited systems. This could trigger a cascade failure of galactic civilization. Secretary Brooks leaned forward. Sir, this is exactly what we warned them about. The early warning systems, the containment protocols, the rapid response capabilities. They dismantled everything, and now they're paying the price. Carter nodded slowly. What about our own forces? Are we ready to engage if necessary? Admiral Sherman had been monitoring the situation from the Human Fleet Command Center. We have 12 ships in the region, but they're operating under the withdrawal protocols. They're not supposed to engage in any military action in the contested zones. The debate continued for hours as the Void Stalkers moved closer to their targets. The aliens sent increasingly desperate messages, offering concessions and agreements they had previously refused to consider. The Zephyrians promised to share their advanced technology. The Hive Queen's representatives offered exclusive trade agreements. The Morpheans were willing to give humans permanent territorial rights in exchange for military assistance, but the human response remained unchanged. The communication arrays stayed silent, the military forces remained at their posts, and the diplomatic channels showed no activity. Humanity had been forced to withdraw from galactic affairs, and they were following that mandate exactly. The third Morphean colony fell as the sun rose over Washington. Elena watched the destruction through her monitoring equipment, feeling sick, as another civilization was reduced to scrap metal and debris. The Void Stalkers had grown stronger with each victory, incorporating new materials and energy sources into their mechanical bodies. They're heading for the Zephyrian Crystal Gardens next, Elena reported. The harmonic resonance from the crystal formations will make them even more powerful. The Zephyrians had finally grasped the magnitude of the threat. Their crystalline forms were particularly vulnerable to Void Stalker technology, which could disrupt their harmonic frequencies and cause them to shatter. A single Void Stalker unit could destroy an entire Zephyrian city in minutes. Emergency sessions were being held in the Galactic Council chambers. But the aliens were discovering that their individual military capabilities were insufficient to handle the ancient threat. The Zephyrians were too slow to respond effectively. The Hive Queen's forces were powerful but lacked the tactical flexibility needed to fight an adaptive enemy. The Morpheans had already lost most of their military capacity. The species that had forced humanity to withdraw were now learning why human presence had been so valuable. Human military forces didn't just provide protection through superior firepower. They provided rapid response, tactical innovation, and the ability to adapt to unexpected threats. They had built the early warning systems, developed the containment protocols, and maintained the vigilance that kept ancient dangers dormant. Now that vigilance was gone, and the galaxy was paying the price. Dr. Elena Cruz continued monitoring the situation from her underground facility, watching as the crisis spread beyond anyone's ability to control. The Void Stalkers were moving toward more populated systems, and the aliens had no effective way to stop them. The Galactic Councils. Desperate messages were becoming more frequent and more pleading, but the human response remained the same: silence. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened as the Void Stalkers destroyed their 7th target in less than 48 hours. Crystalline Prime 7 stood at the center of the council chamber, its body flickering with patterns that indicated extreme distress. The harmonic frequencies that usually gave Zephyrian speech its musical quality now sounded harsh and discordant. The mechanical threat has exceeded all previous threat assessments, the Zephyrian delegate announced. Current defensive capabilities are insufficient to contain the situation. The Morphean representative slithered forward on tentacles that trembled with fear. Its translator device crackled with static as it spoke. 3 research colonies destroyed, 12 defense platforms eliminated, and our entire Outer Rim fleet has been lost. The Morphean Republic formally requests immediate military assistance from all council members. The Hive Queen's delegate clicked its mandibles, and what the other species had learned was a sign of deep concern. The collective has analyzed the tactical data from the recent engagements. The mechanical entities adapt to conventional weapons within minutes of first contact. Standard military doctrine appears ineffective, crystalline Prime 7's form pulsed with urgent light patterns. The Zephyrian High Council has reached consensus. We must formally request assistance from the Human Federation. The statement hung in the air like a physical weight. For over a year, the Council had congratulated itself on successfully containing human expansion. They had forced humanity to withdraw from contested territories and had divided those regions among themselves. Now they were acknowledging that they needed the very species they had expelled, the Morphian. Delegates' tentacles writhed with what other species recognized as embarrassment. The humans have not responded to any previous communications. Their diplomatic channels remained silent. This was true. Dr. Elena Cruz had been monitoring the increasingly desperate alien. Messages from her facility on Earth, the Galactic Council had sent formal requests, informal suggestions, and even personal appeals. From individual delegates, the messages had started with offers to renegotiate territorial agreements, and had progressed to promises of equal partnership and shared governance. The most recent messages had abandoned all pretense of maintaining alien superiority. The Zephyrians had offered to share their most advanced crystal technology. The Morphians had promised exclusive access to their biological research. The Hive Queen's representatives had even suggested that humans could take permanent control of the contested territories in exchange for military assistance, but the human response had remained unchanged. The communication arrays stayed silent. The diplomatic missions received no acknowledgement, and the alien requests disappeared into the void without any indication that humanity was even listening. President Carter sat in the White House Situation Room, reviewing the latest intelligence reports with his senior advisors. The scale of the galactic crisis had grown beyond anything the aliens could handle independently. The Void Stalkers were multiplying as they consumed more materials, and their adaptive capabilities meant that conventional military responses were useless. The Zephyrian homeworld is under direct threat, General Miller reported. The crystal formations that make up their cities are particularly vulnerable to Void Stalker technology. If those formations are destroyed, the entire Zephyrian civilization could collapse. Secretary Brooks studied the tactical displays. What about the other species? Are they offering any meaningful assistance? The Korathians are pulling back their forces to defend their own territories, Miller replied. The Ravager clans have gone completely silent. Most of the smaller species are evacuating their outer colonies and retreating to heavily defended core systems, Carter nodded grimly. This was exactly the scenario that human strategists had warned about during the original Council negotiations. The galaxy contained ancient threats that required constant vigilance and rapid response capabilities. The aliens had dismantled those safeguards and now faced consequences they were unprepared to handle. What's our current military readiness? Carter asked. Admiral Sherman consulted her reports. We have 47 ships positioned along our borders, all equipped with the latest adaptive weapons systems. Our research teams have been developing new tactical doctrines based on the intelligence we've gathered about Void Stalker capabilities. This was the secret that the aliens didn't know. During the year of silence, humanity hadn't been idle. Human scientists and military strategists had been analyzing every scrap of data about the ancient mechanical threat. They had developed new weapons, new tactics, and new technologies specifically designed to counter Void Stalker adaptations. The breakthrough had come from Dr. Claire Adams working with a team of researchers at a classified facility in Nevada. Her expertise in precursor technology had led to the development of quantum disruption weapons that could interfere with Void Stalker learning algorithms. Instead of giving the mechanical creatures something to adapt to, the weapons created cascading failures in their processing systems. The new weapons have been tested against simulated targets, Admiral Sherman continued. Our tactical computers estimate a 78% success rate against Void Stalker units. Carter weighed the implications. Humanity possessed the tools to stop the ancient threat, but intervening would mean abandoning the withdrawal that the aliens had demanded. It would also mean revealing the extent of human technological advancement during their year of isolation. "Sir," General Miller said quietly, "we're receiving real-time distress signals from the Zephyrian homeworld. The Void Stalkers have entered." Their star system, the main screen displayed tactical data from the Zephyrian system. 12 Void Stalker units were approaching the crystal world, moving in perfect formation despite having no apparent communication between units. The Zephyrian defense fleet was deploying to intercept, but their crystalline ships looked fragile compared to the mechanical monstrosities they faced. "Estimated time to planetary contact?" Carter asked. 36 hours at current speed," Miller replied. The Zephyrian mathematical models predict total civilization collapse if their crystal formations are compromised. Dr. Elena Cruz monitored the desperate communications from her underground facility. The Zephyrians were broadcasting detailed, tactical information about the Void Stalker threat directly to human listening posts, hoping that human strategic brilliance could save them even without a formal alliance. Their messages contained complete technical specifications, energy signatures, and movement patterns. "They're giving us everything," Elena reported to Director Brooks. "Detailed schematics of Void Stalker technology, tactical analysis of their weaknesses, even the harmonic frequencies that might disrupt their coordination. The information was invaluable. Human scientists had been working with limited data about the ancient threat, but the Zephyrian intelligence filled in crucial gaps in their understanding. The crystalline beings might be slow to make decisions, but their analytical capabilities were extraordinary. "Forward everything to the research teams," Brooks ordered, "and prepare a summary for the President." The Zephyrian battle began 18 hours later. Elena watched through long-range sensors as the crystalline ships engaged. The Void Stalkers in the outer system. The alien vessels used harmonic weapons that created resonance patterns in space itself, but the mechanical creatures adapted to the frequencies within minutes. One by one, the Zephyrian ships were destroyed or disabled. Their crystal hulls shattered under Void Stalker energy weapons, creating beautiful but deadly light shows as the fragments scattered through space. The mechanical units absorbed the energy from the destroyed ships and grew larger and more powerful. "The Zephyrian fleet is down to 30% strength," Elena reported. "The Void Stalkers are continuing toward the homeworld in the Council." Chambers, Crystalline Prime 7, made one final desperate appeal. The alien delegate had abandoned all diplomatic protocol and was broadcasting directly to human space on all available frequencies. Its crystalline form pulsed with patterns that indicated absolute terror. "Human Federation, we acknowledge our errors in judgment. We formally request immediate military assistance to prevent the extinction of our civilization. We offer complete territorial concessions, full technology sharing, and permanent alliance status. Please respond." The message was broadcast continuously as the Void Stalkers closed the distance to the crystal world. Other species began adding their own desperate pleas. The Morphians offered to transfer control of their biological research facilities to human authority. The Hive Queen's representatives promised to serve as human allies in all future conflicts, but the human communication arrays remained silent. President Carter watched the real-time tactical display as the ancient mechanical threat approached one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The Zephyrians had created wonders of crystal technology that had taken them millennia to develop. Their harmonic sciences had contributed to peaceful relations between dozens of species. Their mathematical models had solved problems that had puzzled other civilizations for centuries. All of that knowledge and beauty was about to be destroyed by machines that had been waiting in the darkness for millions of years. President Carter stood before the assembled leaders of humanity in the Global Assembly Hall. Representatives from every human colony, military installation, and research facility had gathered for this historic moment. The decision he was about to announce would reshape humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever. "The Galactic Council forced us to withdraw from contested territories because they feared our rapid expansion," Carter began. "They believed that removing human presence would create stability and peace. Instead, They have discovered what the galaxy looks like without human protection. Innovation and coordination. The assembly hall was silent as Carter outlined the events of the past year. The military conflicts that had erupted without human peacekeeping forces. The economic collapse that followed the loss of human logistics networks. The environmental disasters on worlds where human expertise was no longer available. The ancient threats that had awakened without human early warning systems. Now they ask for our help, Carter continued. But humanity will not return to the same relationship we had before. We will not be junior partners in a galactic community that treats us as a threat to be contained. Admiral Kate Sherman received her order 6 hours before the Void Stalkers would reach the Zephyrian homeworld. The human fleet had been positioned along the borders of human space, ready to respond to any threat. Now they were being deployed not as rescuers but as the founders of a new galactic order. All ships, this is Admiral Sherman, she announced over the fleet communication system. We are proceeding to the Zephyrian system under the authority of the Terran Protective Coalition. Our mission is to demonstrate human capabilities and establish new terms for galactic cooperation. The fleet consisted of 47 vessels equipped with the latest human technology. During the Year of Silence, human scientists had made breakthrough advances in weapons, shields, and tactical systems. The quantum disruption weapons developed by Dr. Claire Adams were installed on every ship, along with adaptive defense systems that could counter Void Stalker learning algorithms. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the lead squadron from her flagship, the UES Victory. She had been promoted to admiral after her exemplary service during the withdrawal operations. Now she was leading humanity's return to galactic affairs, but on very different terms than before. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours, Hayes reported. Zephyrian tactical data indicates 12 Void Stalker units approaching their home world. Enemy contact expected in 2 hours. The human fleet moved with precision that had been impossible during the old Alliance structure. Human commanders didn't need to coordinate with slow Zephyrian decision-making processes or inflexible Hive Queen strategies. They could adapt their tactics in real time based on battlefield conditions. Dr. Elena Cruz monitored the approach from her facility on Earth. The Zephyrians were broadcasting continuous updates about the Void Stalker advance, clearly hoping that human forces were responding to their desperate calls for assistance. Their crystal cities were preparing for siege conditions, but everyone knew that their defensive capabilities were insufficient. Human fleet signatures detected entering the Zephyrian system, Elena reported. The aliens are responding with what appears to be relief communications. The Zephyrian messages were almost pathetic in their gratitude. After a year of human silence, they were overjoyed to see any sign of human presence. Their communications contained offers of complete territorial concessions, full technology sharing, and permanent alliance status. They were prepared to give humanity everything they had previously denied, but Admiral Sherman's response was not what they expected. Zephyrian Defense Command, this is Admiral Sherman of the Terran Protective Coalition. She announced on open frequencies, human forces are engaging the Void Stalker threat under our own authority. We are not operating under Galactic Council jurisdiction, the message was clear. Humanity was not returning as junior partners seeking alien approval. They were establishing themselves as an independent power with their own agenda and priorities. The battle began as the human fleet intercepted the Void Stalkers 12 million kilometers from the Zephyrian homeworld. Admiral Hayes deployed her squadrons using tactics that had been developed specifically for fighting adaptive mechanical enemies. Instead of conventional formations, the human ships moved in fluid patterns that prevented the Void Stalkers from predicting their movements. The quantum disruption weapons proved devastatingly effective. When the Void Stalkers attempted to adapt to human energy signatures, the weapons created cascading failures in their processing systems. The mechanical creatures found themselves unable to learn from human attacks because the weapons actively prevented the learning process. First Void Stalker unit destroyed, Hayes reported. Quantum disruption systems are performing beyond expectations. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human ships coordinated their attacks with split-second timing, creating overlapping fields of quantum disruption that confused and disoriented the ancient mechanical threat. The Void Stalkers, which had easily destroyed alien fleets, found themselves outmaneuvered and overwhelmed by human tactical innovation within 2 hours. All 12 Void Stalker units had been destroyed or disabled. The mechanical threat that had terrorized the galaxy for weeks was eliminated by a single human fleet using weapons and tactics that no other species possessed. The Zephyrian response was immediate and overwhelming. Crystalline Prime 7 broadcast personal thanks and formal requests for permanent human protection. The other alien species, monitoring the battle from across the galaxy, sent their own messages of gratitude and alliance offers, but Admiral Sherman's next announcement shocked everyone. The Terran Protective Coalition will provide security services to any world that requests our assistance, she declared. However, our operations will be conducted under human command structure and according to human strategic priorities. Species requesting protection will accept permanent human monitoring stations and will contribute resources according to agreements negotiated directly with human representatives. The message was revolutionary. Instead of rejoining the Galactic Council as junior partners, humanity was establishing itself as the dominant military and technological power in the galaxy. The aliens could accept human protection under human terms, or they could face future threats alone. The Morphians were the first to accept the new arrangement. Their colonies were still under threat from Korathian expansion, and they desperately needed human military assistance. Within hours of the Zephyrian victory, Morphian representatives were transmitting formal requests for Terran Protective Coalition intervention. The Hive Queen's collective consciousness deliberated for exactly 17 minutes before accepting human terms. Their agricultural crisis required human environmental expertise, and their rigid social structure actually made it easier for them to accept human authority than the chaotic democracy of the old Galactic Council. Even the Korathians, who had been expanding aggressively during the human absence, suddenly found themselves facing human fleets that demanded an immediate end to their territorial conquests. The warrior species discovered that their military capabilities were inadequate against human adaptive tactics and advanced weapons. Dr. Claire Adams returned to her research, but now with unlimited funding and complete autonomy. Her team had access to alien technology and research data that had been denied to them under the old council system. The precursor ruins that had been declared off-limits to human researchers were now under human control. We're making discoveries that will advance galactic civilization by centuries, Adams reported to her supervisors. The quantum technologies alone will revolutionize faster-than-light travel and communication. President Carter addressed the reformed Galactic Council 6 months after the Zephyrian rescue. The council chamber had been relocated to a human-controlled station, and the meeting procedures had been completely restructured according to human efficiency standards. The old system failed because it was based on fear and jealousy rather than practical cooperation, Carter told the assembled alien delegates. The new system recognizes that different species have different capabilities, and that galactic civilization works best when those capabilities are utilized effectively. The aliens had learned the hard way that humanity's value lay, not just in their technology or military strength, but in their ability to solve complex problems, coordinate diverse groups, and adapt to unexpected challenges. The galaxy functioned better with human leadership because humans understood how to make things work. Ambassador Jake Morrison, who had endured the humiliation of the original withdrawal orders, now served as humanity's representative to a coalition of equals. The aliens who had once dismissed human contributions now competed for human attention and assistance. The silence is over, Morrison announced at the conclusion of the first meeting of the Reformed Council. But the galaxy has learned what that silence cost. Humanity will never again be treated as a junior partner or a threat to be contained. We are the species that makes galactic civilization possible, and that reality will never be forgotten.